Welcome to Revive Ministries Podcast. This is another month. It's February of 2025, and our theme is the same as last year, our connections. This month, the Revive Ministry, I thought it was done well when we reflected on the communities and we belong to, and how that has impacted our connections, um, and also how in essence that it may be more difficult now to connect. So this month's theme is really about not only connections but the communities around it, the ones we belong to, the ones we um, may have wherever you are listening to this from. But before we begin on this, I want to give a recognition to World Cancer Day. It's February 4th, 2025. They have it each year. Um, um, I hope to just shed a little bit of what they do, but more about the importance of it. But today, just want to mention that 10 million people die from cancer every year. Um, that's more than HIV, AIDS, malaria, and tuberculosis combined. It is something that is um, important for us to, as a community, I imagine, to recognize, and as Revive Ministry wants to shed light on a little bit about World Cancer Day. It was initiated by the Union of International Cancer Control, the largest and oldest international cancer organization dedicated to taking action on cancer. Its efforts is to reduce the global cancer burden, promote greater equity, and ensure that cancer control remains a priority in global health and development agenda. So, again, I'll share more throughout this month, but just recognizing and appreciating the work that they are doing or trying to do. With that being said, today I will start this month's theme when it comes to our connections and how, from my insight, my background, and and also I just want to say thank you again to those who listened or are listening, those who have been guests or will be guests coming up. I appreciate each one of you. This is so. With that being said, I want to start off with a disclaimer. It is, if you are in crisis, please seek appropriate professional help immediately. Newish 988 Suicide Crisis Lifeline is in the States. But if you are wherever you are around the world, whatever communities you belong to, I do encourage you to seek help if you are struggling, and if it's an emergency, to get professional help. Um, so, with that said, um, I always say that people say better than me. There's a proverb I want to start off with. It's an African proverb. It says, "If you want to go quickly, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." Um, I can only speak from my experience now working in the field of mental health, but also my own personal experience being one who has and have continued to suffer with mental health issues. I would say this speaks on, I guess, this ambiguous kind of push for us to be quicker and to have less distractions. But I think that also that we can go quicker alone. However, there's this underlying lesson that there is a vital importance of being connected. The old saying, "Oh, we are not islands," goes, I guess, kind of, I guess, brings out some of the questions I have. There are many times when even myself, I do find that I can be introverted and I can be extroverted. I'm on that kind of line, but especially today, at least I could say from my vantage point, it does become easier to be a recluse, to kind of not connect. So And maybe the lie that I might be telling myself is that I could get through things quicker, but there's some other things that we may be missing along that way. And also the question, also quick to what end? And I do feel that there's a cost when we may find this to be a priority. As much as I say it's easy in words, it's not easy in life. It's hard. It's harder sometimes to maintain connections, and I would say it's even harder today. Um, so, with that said, thinking about our communities, thinking about our experience, our lived experience, what we've seen, going getting out of COVID per se, but also even before that, connecting has continued to be an obstacle for many. I can speak that in various degrees. I can only speak from my experience, but also what I've seen. And there's a Gallup poll that tracking this stuff. I'm just mention the pool in America: 44 million, 70%, 17% of the total population are experiencing significant loneliness. And um, it's one thing to be alone. It's another thing to be lonely. That kind of concept, but I do find whether how accurate this statistic is or not, I do feel it from my own experience that it is easier and there's more distractions in place of in front of us. And it's when I was growing up in the 80s and the 90s, if I wanted to hang out with my friends, I would have to actually see them. um, but now it's easier to not have to do that. I was joking the other day, when I had the brick Nokia phone and one of my first phones in 2000, 2001, I never saw like it. Well, I didn't know how quickly texting became more of a thing. Um, Question I kind of that I brought up thinking about this month is, what would you say to those who say they don't have enough time to connect? Well, I have to remind myself. So I don't know what to say for an individual that may be out there, but I will just say, um, um, at least I could say the kind of checklist and what I do, and I try to remember the persons or people or community that I'm maybe trying not to, well, saying I don't have enough time, and then I ask myself what is the priority. And a lot of times I could fill up the list of how busy. Like I said in previous podcasts, I could say there's so many ways I could just say I'm busy. And I think all of us have rehearsed this, have been in a way play pretending that we are always infinitely busy, but the time keeps slipping through our fingers. So I guess it's for me. I had to have an honest approach. I'm not gonna have. For me, you know, I do, the Revive Ministries. The actual wording is, the law of religious um, undertones to that. But and when I think about revive, it's you revive something that's right that's dead. So the idea that I had initially was that there's a lot of conversations that kind of are dead, that we don't are not comfortable to have it. So the platform rules was kind of providing a safe place for us to do that. The reason I mentioned this is to give context that I am faith-based, but this podcast is not. It's not. Its mission is not to proselytize. However, for me, I have to also prioritize. Well, sometimes I may not want to go like to my community, and part of my community maybe it's a church, and various reasons why I don't want to go. And then I asked at the end of the day, um, there's so many reasons to say not to go, whether it's my church, the church that churches that I may want to attend or not want to attend, or to see a group of friends. But I start to ask myself, what are the reasons that I even having this conversation? Why am I actually wanting to? What is the benefit of going? And for me, it's kind of digging towards that ambiguous answer that I can't answer for anyone who's listening, but it's more about what is important for you. And I feel for me, it's not a, there's this idea that, and I think there's a lot of information, there's a lot of quote unquote truth, but it's more how we use and how does this information impact us. So I guess for me, a long-winded way of me saying, what would you say to those, is find time for you to ask those questions. Be curious why it is that you're saying or not having enough time. It's quite simply saying, oh, you need to just cut out time is not enough. What is the priority? Because quite frankly, community and connecting will look different for each one of us. So I just want to encourage to stay curious. Stay curious of what that will look like. If you feel that you are lonely, I would encourage you to, try to see why that is. If you are struggling and it's disrupting your daily life, maybe you want to seek professional help, or maybe try to lean on. But one thing I would encourage you to at least have time for yourself, if not enough time to connect, and then find out what those reasons are and prioritize them. I do feel that a lot of times there's no level of certainty that we could hedge out to say, okay, this is the reason why, because things continue to change whether you like it or not. But I would just say, stay curious when it comes to our connections and why we don't want to do them, or why we need them, why we really need them, why we don't really need them. But fundamentally, I do think that we do better when we do try to connect. I think I can only speak for myself, and I think a good step up, especially those who've been hurt or maybe just been through a lot. A community can be that kind of soft step up, because you don't have to, sometimes when you're in a group and it's just positive, that may be enough. Stephen Furtick says, the reason we struggle with insecurities is that we compare our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. I think we all know this, but we don't connect the dots. That a lot of times what we put out there is what we want to see. And most times we want people to see the highlights. But when we reverse engineer that, we don't always understand that that's what we're seeing when we're going through the screen. I'm like, wow, they're on vacation all the time. Well, probably not. But, that's where I feel having that curious conversation with oneself, of what you feel you may be lacking, may be a good starting point. And if it does, like I said, becomes more and more disruptive, or you just need help, lean on those communities that you have, and etc. But I do feel that there's a lot to this, even though we know that's in front of us. And that's the thing about truth. We might not know that, Instagram or anything that we're scrolling through, we're like, wow, their life looks so much better than mine. And I kind of ask, because when you take a picture, it's like, you're like, oh, not this one. We got to change the angle. We don't see those moments. We just see wow, that looks wonderful. But I guess the other question is, whatever highlight you see, and you compare that, maybe the question about connections, about what this means and why it bothers you, is more not so much about the picture or where they're at, but where you're at. We can all agree that the hardest battles sometimes are the ones we face internally. So I encourage those who are listening. Um, I do like what Stephen Furtick said. It's poignant. I think it's important. When I watch a movie, I always remind myself that it's scripted, and not only that it's scripted, not that it's true. It's more about the director. The word director. What does that mean? He's directing the movie, but there's also this post edit where they cut out scenes. So that means those scenes either didn't make the cut, and why didn't they make the cut? So in the same run, when we see things in social media while we're scrolling through, the things we see are the things people want us to see. So sometimes we will look backwards and may remind us, but again, I would encourage those, at least from my experience, being both one who works in this field, but also the one who has suffered with mental health issues. I think not only just being curious, but also having that time, even though as time is finite, to prioritize you. So if this is the problem connecting, but you say you have no time, I would again encourage to find time to understand what that means, and if it's bothering you, how you may make a slight adjustment, or how you may be able to address it. What has helped you stay connected to those around you? What did not help? Well, what did not help is ruminating, blaming, expecting. Expecting is a big thing. A lot of times, whatever we're going through, sometimes we have unrealistic expectations of what others should or should not do. So for me, whether it's a friend, my wife, my family, you're not going to always agree with anyone that you're around. So and certain good moments and even bad moments are not going to stay there always. The person is not going to always have the best thing to say to you, or agree with you, or just be on. It's not going to be like a highlight reel of your experience with them. And accepting that reality, not always approving on it, but I feel that when I'm able to shift focus from that mindset of they should have called me, I don't feel appreciated, and then use that as statements and then not go further, that definitely did not help me. What helped me personally, for me, stay connected with those around me is it's like a relief picture. For me, it's just focusing on what, I guess, keep it simple. I want to connect. I make contact a friend and see what they're doing. Not measure how many times they contacted me. Not measure how many times they invited me, or not expecting. Just saying, hey, I haven't talked to you for a while. Hey, what's going on? Maybe you and your wife and me and my wife can go and grab a bite or something. So I know this is basic, but a lot of times we ourselves get in the way of this. I'm not going to find the perfect friend. I'm not going to have perfect family member. I'm not going to have the perfect spouse, but I'm going to have people that I'm connected to, that I have contacts, and that I think the idea of perfection sometimes, or the ideal situation, can be that barrier. But for me, I feel that has helped me to be not only kind to myself, but kind to others, even if they don't agree, whatever political side they are. we're not there for a debate. We're here to connect. I haven't seen you. What's going on? I have friends that I'm not able to connect, not because of time, but because sometimes our life priorities are changed. You see that when you leave school, whatever the situation. But those friends, at least I've accepted that maybe right now we're not connected. Maybe where they're going in life is somewhere that I'm going another direction, but I would always like to remind myself that I really not only remind but remember that I enjoyed my time I had with them, and I hope whatever they're doing whatever they're doing is going well. I wish them the best with not any expectations. If our lives cross paths again, it'll be wonderful to see them. Not why didn't they call me? Why didn't they connect with me? Um, I think life is too short for that. And that's just from my experience. And in regards, and I feel that's why it's so hard sometimes for us to find time, because it may be difficult. And I think this is where expectations can be helpful, because I expect it to be difficult. Connecting is difficult. There's so much context and things going on that I'm not made aware of, and maybe it's not my prerogative to know. But it's for me. I try to be not only resilient but also have those inner conversations and check those expectations. But why do you feel sometimes also it's hard to find time for connections? And this is a different side of it, is that sometimes you feel that there's so much to do, and there may be so much to do, and I think, but I feel that um if happiness is always just some singular point or milestone or achievement, but you don't take care of yourself throughout the journey, if you're not able to laugh at yourself, you're not able to, because only if I get here will I be able to connect socially. um, I feel there's a lot of what ifs, and I do encourage. I don't feel it's very kind to yourself to do that. There's so many factors that may get in the way that you have no control over, and I worry if you're in that mindset that only if I get here can I allow myself to do X, Y, Z. I feel connection is not so much a privilege but a necessity, whether you like it, whatever that looks like. I think we are made to connect as people, you know. But whatever that looks like may look for different. So it's hard to say, but I do feel we do better when we feel connected. I feel better when I feel appreciated. Maybe it's not the same way of appreciated. Maybe I don't need words, but at the very least, I feel connected when I feel heard. And for those who have been has someone who who has had experienced mental health issues, depression, whatever, what have you, feeling heard is one of the, I guess, jarring things, at least from my experience, that I, I didn't expect. Well, I didn't know what to expect being very young, to experience mental health issues. So um, there's something about feeling heard and connected that um, can improve my mindset and my outlook forward. So I think even though connections are not just um, communicating information, is connecting is connecting. So I, I want to pause there and just give a lot of times when I have guests, and I give a moment for them to share what brought them here, what any updates, anything you want to share. Obviously, I've been doing this podcast as a host, More of it's just updates on Revive Ministries, and not much to update besides the fact that we're continuing to encourage and those who are listening. Um, if you know someone or you yourself want to be a guest, to reach out. I I like I like that there is a space, and I like to provide a space where we can have these conversations. Whether it doesn't matter if you're an expert or you are, that's wonderful. Whether you have lived experience or you yourself have been care, it's feeling heard. Trying to expand on that. Other news on Revive Ministries is that that um, that we're trying to incorporate other ways that people can participate in what we're trying to do. And if you know anyone who's musically inclined, or feels like they want to share a song or something like that, just email us. We're trying to do different methods. Not a lot of people, not everyone will maybe want to talk, but maybe they want to share a song or anything like that. I do encourage you to reach out to us at info at reviveministriesfl.com. Again, our website is reviveministriesfl.com. But besides all that, I just want to say before we continue, as we wrap things up with this first part, when we talk about our connections, I want to say thank you again, wholeheartedly, for since 2019, and we're now in 2025. Continue forward. I do appreciate each one of you, those listening, and I do want to also encourage those who are struggling, maybe listening to this, to find that community, find that connection, ask that question a lot of us don't want to ask as adults. I need help. So moving forward, I want to, as we continue, I have another quote from Rachel, namely Remen. She says, "Perhaps the secret of living well is not having all the answers, but pursuing unanswerable questions in good company." I feel that, I like the lightness of this. Um, I think it reminds us that we may get it's not so much of answering, getting all the questions answered, but the process itself. So if for instance, I am a great musician, or like pianist per se, and my goal is to be, I don't know, doing concerts all around the world, whatever the case may be. Um, but the biggest tragedy in this kind of hypothetical story is that my focus is only on where I want to be and not where I am here and now. And I guess the tragedy of that is that I may resent the piano itself just because I'm not where I would like to be. I feel that's a tragedy because it's a gift. A lot of whether it's amazing how many gifted people are out there. So I feel it robs the person of that ability to enjoy the gifts that they were given. So I feel, um, mm, you know, being okay, not knowing everything, and honestly, and also lightly expressing that it can, the idea that the community, the connectiveness, we may be passionate about a certain thing, but we're trying to work through it. Maybe not in your lifetime, maybe in the next lifetime, that someone may be able to figure out a better solution. But along the way, you had fun. The process a lot of times just get emphasized as much. The quickest way is not always the best way. And I do feel that the unanswerable questions doesn't put less value on the. I think it does um, when you put more value to yourself, and that you're allowed to enjoy, allowed to get better, allowed to feel better. I think in a way, Rachel Naomi Remen is saying that. What habits have been helpful for you to remain connected? I think the creative outlet. A lot of times for me, it's how come back from work or whatever is finding a way to cathartically decompress. So, and that may not seem connected, but I feel that when I express my feelings or find a positive way for me to connect creatively, it allows me to connect with those around me deeper. So that has been very helpful for me. I'm a gamer. I like gaming. I find the stories compelling at times. I like music. I'm not by far the greatest. I like to sing, but I know there's so many amazing singers, amazing musicians out there, and I just whatever creative platform you are, whatever you are good at, I would that creatively, I would encourage, at least from my experience, to continue. If you're a painter, keep painting. If you get sketched, keep sketching. Whatever and don't worry about being the best or number one. A lot of times we go too fast that way. Learn to enjoy the things that you enjoy, and don't let. I would encourage, don't let anything rob that from you. If you love basketball, continue playing basketball. If you love singing, you love soccer or football, whatever it is, and it's positive, it helps you decompress. If you love running, jiu-jitsu, whatever it is, I encourage you to keep doing it. Oscar Wilde says it that way. And I think the kindness doesn't just go towards others, though this is, may suggest that, but also to yourself. So the smallest act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intention. So I would encourage those who are listening to that small act of kindness. Could be to your neighbor, your coworker, to your wife, your spouse, your friend, your brother, your sister, but also it could be to you. Maybe instead of maybe the smallest act of kindness is giving you time to ask these questions about why am I not connecting? Why do I not feel motivated to connect? Maybe that's the small act of kindness you could give yourself. That you ask the question, that you allow yourself to go through those questions and find what's a happy medium. What is a good place for me to grow in? Am I okay with not being okay? Am I okay with spending time figuring this stuff out because it matters today? Is today good enough for me? Am I allowed to explore these questions? Or is it more important that I live for tomorrow, never today? These are the kind of questions and I think the small act of kindness is maybe trying to find some time to ask these questions. And again, if you are struggling, and not minimizing, if you're going through, notice that even whatever you do, you feel melancholic, you feel no motivations, if it's disruptive, if you don't feel any sense, I encourage you to possibly go see professional help, whatever that looks like. But at the very least, talk to someone, connect with someone, tell them that you're not feeling so well. It's never really going to be a great time. It's never really going to be ever convenient. There's never a certain day that'll be the best day to tell an individual that you need help. So again, small act of kindness is worth more than the grandest intentions. Don't put it off. Don't put yourself off. And also, this also goes to those around you. Be kind. Final thoughts. Again, I kind of said it, but kindness is something that may feel lacking nowadays. But yeah, I would say the one choice is how you're going to respond to whatever's happening around you. So if you're in a bad situation, not feeling well, maybe the kindest thing is to find out what's going on. Maybe go to a doctor, maybe go to a mental professional, maybe go to your religious group or mosque or church or you know, temple. Just talk to the rabbi, whatever it is, or just talk to a friend, a colleague. Say, you know what, I don't know what's going on, but it's just not none of this. I feel unmotivated. Ask for help. Just ask that. And again, I want to say thank you for those who have been listening, who are listening, the guests, the future guests. Maybe it's you. Again, thank you. I want to also remind to stay updated with Revive Ministry through the various platforms. ReviveMinistryFL.com is our website. Our YouTube is youtube.com at Revive Ministry FL Podcast. This is goodbye from Revive Ministries, leaving you the last quote from Desmond Tutu. And he says it this way: do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. Desmond Tutu.